Hey everybody, it's Jamie, and welcome to Geeked Out Basketball's Dev Diary number 20, where today we're going to be breaking down the teams that you'll be able to play in the alpha. And as usual, thanks so much for joining us here for this Dev Diary series, because at Geeked Out Basketball, we are building the world's best deep tactical basketball simulation game. It's Football Manager for basketball, because hardcore basketball sim gamers like all of you, you need your game too. And without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, I am heads down getting the site prepared to go live, which means a lot of technical work. So I don't have really any new features to show you today. But what I do have for you is I've done some fine tuning of the teams you're going to be able to play in the alpha. And I wanted to go through each team's roster and break down some of their strengths and weaknesses. Because to me, I think one of the fun and exciting components of this game is going to be the requirement to get to scout the players, to really know your own players and understand your own players and have a vision for how you want to build and develop your team. But then also you're going to need to start to understand your opponents as well too, and begin to prep your scouting reports and how do you want to prep your strategies for each game and everything else. So I thought today's video could be a nice primer to kind of break down the 8 teams that are going to be playable in the alpha. Now, when we go live with the full game, you're going to have significantly more than 8 teams to choose from. There's going to be, essentially the way I think it's going to set up is it's going to be a macro, high school basketball league, call it, with 128 teams. And then there are going to be 8 regions, and each region is going to consist of 16 teams, which are 2 8-team conferences. And so I think the way ultimately that's going to break down is you're going to play, like, depending on how you want it, you're going to be in charge of, you're going to have some games on your schedule that are set for you. And so, like, for example, the other 7 teams in your conference, you're going to have a home game against them and an away game against them. So that's 14 games right there. And then you're going to have 1 game against each of the 8 teams in your sister conference, which correspond to your region. And it'll be 4 away and 4 home. And so that will constitute 22 games. And then you can schedule anywhere from like 1 to 8 more games. I think a max you could end up playing is 30. You can schedule certain opponents. You can, schedule cupcakes if you want, or you can schedule some pretty heavy hitters to work on your strength of schedule and whatnot. And then for the postseason, I'm still kind of working through exactly how that's going to be set up. But I'm envisioning some sort of postseason tournament, kind of similar to what March Madness does. But the thought is that each of the 8 regions, there'll be a conference tournament at the end of the season for each of the conference tournaments. And then I'm still kind of playing through, but the thought is that the 2 conference tournament winners in each region will play each other to earn a bid to the final tournament at the end of the year. So that would be 8 total bids. And then the other 8 could be at large bids. I'm also working on maybe a system to where, the regular season conference tournament winner and the regular season winner for the conference and then the conference tournament winner qualify for like a regional tournament. And then if that's the same team, they actually get a bye. Like I'll kind of get into all of that, but I guess it's my long way of saying that you're going to have 8 teams to play in the alpha, but the full experience is going to be significantly more robust. And then the other thing we're going to play with this too, obviously, is if you want to, mod your own teams into this thing and upload your own teams. We're working on a process for that as well. Like, do you want to upload 1 team into this universe and have it compete? And then, or do you want to be in charge of uploading all 128 teams or maybe a fraction of those? We'll get into all of that. Again, our main focus right now is the core product, getting to product market fit, building a product a game that you all want to play. And then we're going to really blow out the bells and whistles. But for this, let's jump into the breakdown of each of the 8 teams that you'll get to play in the alpha. And we're going to start with Bentley Truman, who's the best team talent-wise in the game. So when you go to a team's roster page, you're going to have grid view, which is this grid view to see all of their attributes. And then there's also player view, which to me is a pretty fun way to look at things. And so we'll start with Bentley Truman. So a quick level set, and I'm actually going to pull up my notes here as well too. So across the 8 teams, you're going to find on the player view that the player rating is up here in the upper left corner, And that's their rating. That's their highest rating in any position. If you hover your tooltip over it, you'll see that player's rating at all 5 positions. So for example, Zenon Fletcher is an 89 rated point guard, a 79 rated shooting guard, 62 small forward, 45 center, 39 power forward. And it will display his highest rated position, the rating at his highest rated position here. So one thing to note as we go through all 8 of these teams, you're going to see there are 11 players who have an overall rating of 80 or greater at this point. And then there's one player who's over 90, which I'll show you. So you can see 4 of those 11 players who are over 80 sit on Bentley Truman's roster. And then the other thing to note too is you've got a really strong sophomore ranked at a 71 here with Ronnie Rozier. Because one thing to note, and this the reason I have the players' years here at the top of their card is because when you train, all players are going to be able to improve with training, but the younger the player is, the more potential they have for more dramatic increases. There's also going to be more variability, right? So there is a chance, depending on just who that player is, how you're managing things overall from a coaching perspective, which I'll get into this in the future, that player could also be a bit more volatile as he's younger, right? So the way to think about it is seniors, which are noted with senior and gold copy, pretty much what you see is what you get with the seniors. You're going to be able to improve them. Their moves up and down are going to be less dramatic. They can happen, especially as you focus on certain things with your team. Juniors are going to have a little more variability. So you'll be able to like, for example, there's one player on Lancaster we get to who I think is rated as a 94. Zenon Fletcher as a junior is rated as an 89. That 94 rated player is a senior. If you develop your team the right way and develop Zenon the right way, he could become the highest rated player in the conference at some point during the season. Juniors have more variability. Sophomores have probably the best mix of high potential, and while they can, have variability to the downside, it's significantly less than it is for freshmen. Freshmen are wildly volatile either way. Sophomores are kind of volatile, but have more I'd say more like upside potential versus downside. Juniors have pretty limited downside potential. They have a little bit, but they do have better upside potential than seniors. And then seniors are just pretty steady Eddie. You're going to get incremental improvements with them. So the way to look at this is you've got 2 juniors sitting in the 80s. You've got your point guard and you've got your big man here, Kermit Prospect. You got 2 seniors, your power forward, who's a really strong rebounder and inside defender. If you flip the card here, you can see all of their attributes. You can kind of see CJ is he's an 8 rebounding, a 9 inside defense, has really strong endurance, and he's strong. He has a 7 strength. And then like Trent, your other senior, he's a scorer, right? 7 scoring, 10 shooting. He can play some outside defense. He's got good footwork, good endurance, smart, good free throw shooter. But someone like Ronnie Rozier, I think, is going to be pretty exciting because it's going to be, how do you want to develop this guy? Like the natural way would be as a small forward. If you kind of look at the team, you got your point guard, your shooting guard, your power forward, and your center. So he slots into this group perfectly as a small forward. But maybe this guy is so versatile, maybe you want to develop him more as a center. Maybe you want to develop him more as a point guard. It's kind of on you, because if you flip here, he's going to have quite a range that he can work with. You can see he's got good scoring. He's pretty balanced defensively, inside and outside. Maybe you want to develop his outside shot a little bit. Maybe you want to develop his skills, his passing and ball handling. He has great footwork. Maybe you want to work on his strength. Maybe you want to work on his basketball IQ. His biggest weakness is his endurance, so maybe you want to plus that up just to make him a better all-around player. But because he's a sophomore, you've got some room to grow him, and there's a pretty good chance he'll be well into the 80s, maybe even the 90s if you coach him up right during the season. And then you can kind of see here with Bentley Truman, you've really got, I would say, 10 playable guys. All these guys in the top row. And then down here, you've got a 58 rated senior who's kind of your backup big man, Omar. You've got this emerging point guard here. You got 3 sophomores right here. This guy's kind of like a pretty good, versatile, small forward type guy. This guy's a pure shooter. This guy's a pure point guard, so how do you want to develop those guys? And then one thing to note with freshmen, you're going to see every team has at least one freshman. There's one team which has multiple freshmen, which will be kind of an interesting case if you want to play that. But the way to think about freshmen is their normal progression. If they just progress normally, you could probably count them on by the time they become a senior 2xing where they're at as a freshman. Now, that being said, just like that with all things in this game, that has variability. So first of all, there's a bit of randomness that goes into that because these players are human and humans are random. They don't work linearly. But also your coaching decisions and specifically your training decisions can have a really significant impact. So there could be a way where, sure, this guy may be mapping to a 54 by the time he's a senior, but maybe you do such a good job of coaching him up, developing him, maybe he's a 90, by the time he gets there. You'll get a feel for that, and I'm going to get more into training in the future, but that's just kind of a way to think about it. And you're going to see here with the freshmen, I think there are 11 freshmen in the game. There are 2 who start off in the 40s, and then I think there are like 4 or 5 who start off in the 30s, and then the other 4 or 5 who start off in the 20s in terms of their rating. And then you're going to see some guys, like this guy's a senior ranked at a 35. He's just going to be a body, right? And, maybe someone, you probably won't see much court time, but who knows, But so like Bentley Truman, as I look at this team, you've got the most talented team in the game right now. You've got great senior and junior leadership. You've got 4 talented sophomores you can develop for the long term of your program. And you've got a freshman who, has potential, especially if I look at his attributes. He's a good free throw shooter. He's a good outside shooter. And, he's starting with, not zeros and ones physically, at least from agility and endurance standpoint. He's not that strong yet. He's got some outside defense. And he's a good passer and ball handler. I would probably consider developing this guy as an outside player. But I don't know. Maybe you want to work on all of his defense and make him a defensive wizard if these guys are all over here going to be more offensive focused. So it's kind of on you to think about how holistically you want to develop your team. But that's Bentley Truman. So I think a good way to think about Bentley Truman, super talented, 4 strong sophomores to develop, great senior leadership, and you could also end up having the best player in the game with Fletcher before too long. I picture Zenon Fletcher. He's like a junior point guard, elite player. I could see he's the type of guy who you'd see playing point guard for Duke 2 years down the road. He's that kind of guy. Let's look at the next team, which is Lancaster. And let's go to the standings. I'm going to go to Lancaster next. And so this team has the 190. And this is an interesting team because while Bentley Truman has about 10 guys top to bottom you could play, I see Lancaster as having also a pretty deep bench and about 9 guys that you can play. And while Bentley Truman kind of had their big 4 with 2 juniors and 2 seniors, Lancaster's more of a senior-laden team. So you have the best player in the game, which is Roger Henrik. He's a 94 rated center. I mean, you look at his attributes, he's a 10 inside defense, 9 scoring, 10 strength, 9 rebounding. He's a pretty good passer, all things considered. So outlet passes for fast breaks. He's not a dummy. He's got 5 IQ. He could work on his endurance, and his free throw shooting. But still, he's a force on the inside. And then you've got your senior. This guy is like Wilbert Struthers. Oh, that's a bummer. It's kind of the tooltip's going up. But you see he's an 88 rated shooting guard. He's an 85 rated small forward. He's an 83 rated center. 71 point guards is lowest. You can play this guy at any of the 5 positions, and he's super dominant, right? Because look at this. He's a 9-9-9-8 across scoring, shooting, inside defense, outside defense. He has great footwork. He's a good passer, good free throw shooter. So you can kind of build around him. And then kind of one of your wild cards with Lancaster is this guy over here, Norris Kahn. He's a sophomore, 64. You could develop this guy well into the 70s. He might even reach 80s. And that could give, if you develop him and then, Buckles as a junior gains a bit, you could have a team who's at least their starting 5 is on par with Bentley Truman. And you can see that Kahn, as with everything Lancaster's the strong defensive team. So he's a great defensive player. He's got offensive ability, but he's also pretty good physically, right? Good agility, footwork, strength, and good free throw shooter. So this team has sort of like the core makings of maybe being the team who could be most poised to challenge or disrupt Bentley Truman. And then you've got a few other guys here as well. You've got like your senior who's kind of like a backup. He's like a good defender and a point guard. I would see this guy. You could look at his traits. You see not much offensively, but again, like all guys with Lancaster, strong defensive traits, pretty good IQ. You could also put him in just to kind of be a defensive stopper a bit and let some of the other Lancaster guys maybe put in less effort on defense so they can put in more on offense. And then you just kind of take a look down here too. Like you got this sophomore, Timmy Deepaz, and how do you want to develop him? He's a good shooter and an outside defender. So I personally would probably, and I would see his 8 free throws here, and I'd be like, okay, this is a guy who I want shooting the ball. So let's maybe work on his shooting. Let's also work on his ball handling. Maybe I want to develop him into the next point guard for after Miller graduates this year. And maybe you want to work on his footwork or endurance, everything. So that's Lancaster. Next, we're going to go to Four Corners. And this is a fun team. So you can kind of see with Four Corners, you've got your all-star, Jeffrey Jackson, who's rated at an 85. You've got 3 guys at 71, including a junior and a sophomore. And then you don't really have much beyond Josiah here for like sophomores or freshmen with potential. This is more of a team which it is kind of is what it is. And this is the team that if you look across the board, and we'll get into this when we look at cumulative team attributes, these are the run and gunners. These are the guys who all of their players have really high endurance attributes. You see this guy, Jay, has an 11. We have a 7 down here. Their best player has a 9. So this is the team that's pretty well conditioned. And you can do a lot more running and gunning with them. You can wear down your opponents. You can do a lot more fast breaks, presses, half-court traps, high-pressure defenses, and kind of see how that plays along. You do have a couple younger guys here. If you want to kind of start to think about how you want to develop them, it's probably smart because this is also a pretty, senior-laden team, at least with the big men. Jackson grades out highest as a power forward. So does this guy, Roberto Yu, and then this guy grades out highest also as a power forward. That's surprising. I thought he'd grade out higher as a center. But yeah, so that's Four Corners. And then we'll take a look at Morristown as our next one. So with Morristown, you've got about 8 guys you can play here. More depending on how you develop your sophomores. But you've got 3 seniors here. You've got your senior, and he's an 89 rated center, and Bonner, he's the best player on the team. You got your point guard here and your power forward at the 70s. You got a sophomore. So really, you develop these 2 guys, and you can have a strong starting 5. Like this guy's already a 71 rated shooting guard, and this guy's also a 71 shooting guard, 70 small forward. So maybe knowing you have Nelson who can become your shooter, maybe you take Peter Gregory, who's your junior, and you develop him a bit more physically, work on his strength and his rebounding and maybe his inside-outside defense and make him your peer 3, your peer small forward, Or maybe you want to make him a more dynamic point guard than Hawkins because Hawkins is a good point guard when it comes to ball handling and outside defense, but he doesn't have much offensively to work with. Excuse me. But like this guy, Peter Gregory, is really strong offensively. So maybe you want to work on his passing and ball handling, and all of a sudden you've got a really strong offensive point guard on your team. And then these guys, they have the lowest rated freshman in the game down here, Ernie Dimes. With a last name like that, though, you can guess what his one good trait is. He's, free throw shooting and shooting. So he's kind of like your shooter. You can maybe develop a bit more long term, but I think it's going to take him a while. And then you do have a few other sophomores to work with here to train up a little bit. All right, next let's look at Little York. So Little York is the smart team. They're the most intelligent team. So if you look at these guys, they've got 180. They've got 370s, including a sophomore. And then the talent kind of drops off. So they're a little bit more of a top-heavy team. And you're going to really be relying on, leveraging. You're going to how well does intelligence impact overall? Because this guy, basketball IQ is a 7. This guy's at a 7. This guy's at a 6. They're pretty consistent 6. They're pretty consistent basketball IQ guys across the board. 7, 5, 8, So here it is. Your seniors are your seniors. You've got a pretty strong, offensive-minded point guard type here. He's good scoring and shooting, also good at passing and ball handling. You got your big man here. So he's good inside defensively. You can plus him up a little bit offensively. Strong rebounder. And then you got kind of like your swing man here, your 3. He's a good scorer, good both inside and outside defensively, good athletically with strength and agility. But then this guy, what do you want to do with him? Oh, what just happened there? You kind of see he's strong defensively. He's got to plus up his scoring a little bit, but he's a good rebounder as well. And he's strong IQ, I would probably lean into the scoring and the inside defense and just turn this guy into my 4 and just make him like a really, really strong 4. And then how do you want to develop your other sophomore? You got another sophomore down here who could maybe bring something unique to your team as well, and that's Frankie Herndon. He's pretty good defensively. He's pretty smart. He's got pretty good endurance. So where do you want to dial him? Do you want to maybe make him a pure point guard? He doesn't have much offensive ability, but if you make him a pure point guard, then you can move Smith over here to your 2 and just kind of let him rely on scoring. So it's really how do you want to develop your team? And then your freshman here is a 30 rated freshman, which is kind of nice. And he's got some pretty good inside skills between inside defense, rebounding, and strength, and some IQ and that kind of stuff. So, so that's Little York. Next, let's look at South Lancaster. And here you've got a pretty mercurial senior who's a really strong small forward to start. This guy's kind of like, again, your all-around player, scoring, shooting, inside defense, outside defense. He's also a physical freak. He's got 9 strength, 9 agility. He's low on endurance and low on IQ, so you got to kind of keep that in mind a little bit. But he's a good ball handler. You can run a lot of ISO plays with him, driving to the basket. And then you got another senior big man here who grades out strongest as a power forward, but he's also a good center. He's a good defender and a good rebounder, decent scoring. But then you got these 2 twins here who are juniors. One is a strong shooting guard and one is a strong point guard. So develop these guys up, and you've got a core 4 who you can all of a sudden work with. And you've got this senior power forward type who can do some of your dirty work. And then the question is, can you develop any of these young guys? This sophomore, he's a strong power forward type. This guy's a good shooting guard type. Sorry, the tool tips are kind of sitting way up there for some reason. And then this guy's your strong center type. So can you develop any of these guys to add a little bit more depth to this team? Because you've got some talent. You've got one of the best players in the game here. And then you've got some other guys who you should be able to develop into the 70s because they're juniors right now. But you can see after the first 5, your talent drops off quite a bit with South Lancaster. They're the underdogs in the game. They're kind of like us versus the world. One thing with them is they can really rally as a team, though, if you get them believing in themselves. And then lastly, we'll look at what could be one of the most fun teams to play in the game, which is Xavier. Now, they are the least talented, but one thing you're going to notice right here is they have a lot of freshmen, and they've got 2 freshmen who are starting off at 40s. So if you want to take on the challenge of really developing and molding a team in your vision, this is the team to do it with. Now, you're going to start at a huge talent deficit, so you have to figure out how you want to manage that. But you do have a group of seniors up here, especially a couple. You got this senior shooting guard type in Darnell Love. He's a really good outside shooter, and he also has good footwork and good basketball IQ. And then you've got this sort of senior Scott Swenson leader type. He grades out as a small forward, power forward type. but you can see he's a good defensive player. He can score on the inside. He's strong, has good footwork. And then you have a few other players here, but you start to get here. You've got a 41 rated freshman who, starting off as a power forward type, he's a good rebounder, has inside defense and scoring abilities. So how do you want to develop him? And you got another big man freshman who's grading out at a 40, and he's got more offensive ability. He's also a good rebounder and inside defender. And then you come over here, you got this freshman who's your point guard type. So you see he's already at a 4-4 for passing and ball handling. So do you want to develop him up? And then you've got this 29 rated freshman here, but you can start to build him up defensively, right? You see you've got a 3-3 in inside defense and a 3 on agility as well. So again, do you want to take over the talented team and play in a lot of big games right away and win when you're supposed to win? Do you want to take the underdogs in South Lancaster and see what you can do with them? Or do you want to mold and develop a team truly from scratch here with Xavier? And it's kind of what sort of challenge you want to take on as a coach. And then another thing in franchise mode I want to show you is we have this team traits tab right here. And this will always show you, this will be fun as the season goes on because you're going to be training your teams each week, but the computer is also going to be training their teams. And you can come here, you can always do clickable sorts. You can kind of see, okay, Bentley, if you just sorted by scoring here. So this is the cumulative value of all players on the team. You can see Bentley Truman is first in scoring, Four Corners is second, Little York is third, etc. And one thing to show you, I'm just going to go through and click and sort each one of these. Part of what makes Bentley Truman so difficult is they are talented across the board. So you're going to see they never rank lower than third in any attribute. And I think they're actually top 2 in every one except for one. We see they're number 1. They're number 1 in scoring. They're number 2 in shooting. They're number 2 in inside defense. They're number 3 in outside defense. They're number 1 in passing, 1 in ball handling, 2 in rebounding, 1 in agility, 2 in strength, 2 in endurance, 2 in IQ, 2 in free throws. And then total they're top. So you can see why every team has their personality. Bentley Truman's personality is that they're bulletproof across the board. Shooting, that's Ocean City. Ocean City has a lot of deficiencies elsewhere, but they have great outside shooters. Defensively, Lancaster ranks top at both inside and outside defense. Passing and ball handling, the fundamentals, that's Bentley Truman. Rebounding, also Lancaster. They're the big, rugged, tough team. Agility-wise, Bentley Truman. Strength, Lancaster, right? So inside defense, outside defense, rebounding and strength, Lancaster is all number 1. Endurance, that's Four Corners. So that's kind of what they bring to the table is their strong endurance. Basketball IQ is Little York. So that could be kind of fun. Even with talent deficiencies, can you build strategies around a smart team in Little York or a high endurance team like Four Corners and outwit your opponent that way? And then free throw shooting, Ocean City, because they have a lot of really good shooters, slightly edges out Bentley Truman. And then down here, as you're training your team in the computer, is there will always be a top 10 just traits overall, cumulatively. And we exclude free throws because over half of these would be team free throw values. But you can kind of see of all the attributes cumulatively for the team, Four Corners has the highest at endurance. And then it's Little York with IQ. Then it's Bentley Truman with endurance. Then it's Lancaster with inside defense. Then it's Lancaster with strength. Then Bentley Truman again with IQ. Then Morristown actually with IQ. And then you've got Bentley Truman with agility, South Lancaster with endurance, and then Bentley Truman with passing. So this will change and evolve throughout the season. So I think it'll just be kind of another fun little, metrics tab for you to measure things by, to game plan with, how well you develop your teams, how do you want to strategize against your upcoming opponents. So, yeah. So hope you all enjoyed this. This is just another example of a lot of the research and the stats and the planning and the immersion you can do as you're playing this game. As usual, if you've watched the video for this far, I really appreciate it. If you could give us a like and subscribe, maybe even share it with some of your friends, that would be amazing. And if we're going to be launching the alpha, I'm going to tell you for sure this coming Wednesday. It's either going to be in 1.5 weeks or 2.5 weeks. I have been saying January 28th. I think I might push it out to the February, whatever that Wednesday is after that, only because I'm doing what I know a early game dev shouldn't do, but I want to like polish a few more things for one more week. I know I should be getting this game in your hands so you can tell me what you want and what you don't want, and we're going to do that. But essentially what I'm mapping towards right now is I'm finishing the go live prep for by this Wednesday. And then I want to do a week of polish and just kind of get more features tied up and everything, and then do a week of full testing, bug squashing, so you have a few of those. So I may or may not do that week of polish. If you have an opinion, let me know in the comments. Like, do you just want to start playing this right away, or would you welcome a bit more polish and whatnot? And then other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. And again, thanks so much for watching, and we will chat again this Wednesday. Have a great day. Bye-bye.